I just finished this game yesterday. Dragon's Dog Shit 2.
If I were to write a list of all the things that made Skyrim special, it'd be as long as the Elder Scrolls themselves. Considering that's a massive waste of parchment, I can boil Skyrim's magic down to one word: dragons. Few games have recaptured the thrill of Tamriel's worms crashing down from the sky to interrupt an otherwise run-of-the-mill fetch quest. But I've got good news. That very same sense of awe, terror and excitement fuels Dragon's Dogma 2, a game where a towering cyclops can unexpectedly emerge from the forest's edge, or a terrifying drake swoop down from on high, all in unscripted, emergent moments.
I think that they need one or two more outdoor like elite mobs like the Drake. I do. I think that they need at least one more.
If you're familiar with the original Dragon's Dogma, then you'll likely know that the game's director, Hideaki Itsuno, was partially inspired by the Elder Scrolls series. That inspiration makes the first game, and in turn Dragon's Dogma 2, stand out not only against the traditions of Japanese-developed RPGs, but also much of the Western RPG scene too. Dragon's Dogma 2 rejects many of the genre's narrative-heavy staples in favour of a more organic, exploration-focused structure. It's a philosophy that powers Bethesda Game Studios' trademark approach, and so within Dragon's Dogma 2, there are recognisable echoes of Skyrim. Our memories of Morrowind, Oblivion and Skyrim are more often than not related to our lived experiences within the world, rather than...
I feel like Skyrim is such a big game. Like, Skyrim kind of, like, defined like modern like fantasy RPGs because it was just so big. And it's crazy to think about how popular this game was.
Specific characters or narrative
Oblivion
beats.
I think that Oblivion, like, so Skyrim was built off of Oblivion. Like, you're right that Oblivion laid the groundwork for it, but Skyrim is what really took it into the mainstream and made it to where like everybody knew about like, oh yeah, this is the way it works.
Makes the Elder Scrolls something unusual among RPGs,
Skyrim was like
a genre
massive.
Typically reliant on novel-like stories. It's likely a result of the series having roots in Ultima Underworld, the key progenitor of games like System Shock and Deus Ex. These games are built on interlocking systems and mechanics that combine to create worlds that feel organic and authentic. Everything has its purpose and interacts with the things around it. While story is a foundational pillar in these games, it's delivered without the cinematic lens used in more traditional RPGs. They're not Baldur's Gate, Mass Effect or Dragon Quest. These are games about doing and experiencing, rather than being part of a beautifully written tale.
At last, we may celebrate the coming of our rightful ruler.
That brings us back to Skyrim's dragons, and in turn Dragon's Dogma 2's array of colossal beasts. They turn up without warning, injecting unexpected challenges into...
The random griffin dive bombs are really, really cool. Like, that was awesome for them to add shit like that into the game. And even though sometimes it'll kill your character, it's still worth it.
Well, anything.
Yep.
You could be having a mundane stroll back to the city to hand in a quest, or be in the middle of an already heated battle. Just yesterday, I was on an errand to collect gold ore, only for my mining expedition to be interrupted by a ferocious griffin. A great battle ensued, with my party calling down bolts of lightning and shooting flaming arrows in an attempt to bring it down. The creature eventually realised it was bested, and so took to the skies, but not before I grabbed its tail and clambered onto its hind leg. Hurtling through the skies and hanging on for dear life, I began a new adventure. An adventure with no questlog entry or objective.
See, this is the kind of stuff that, like, this is why open world games should exist. This is fucking awesome.
Just let this massive half-eagle, half-lion decide my fate.
I am sorry.
Ooh. Ouch. Peak fantasy right there? Exactly, yeah.
Many RPGs carry the sense of being crafted for you. Every quest is bespoke for your protagonist. Dragon's Dogma 2 feels much more organic.
Dragon's Dogma 2 feels like a lot of the game systems and like the things that happen in the game are like, oh, and by the way, fuck you. Oh, there's this thing? Yeah, by the way, fuck you. Oh, there's this? Oh yeah, there's another thing? Yeah, fuck you. You've got to go across this little tiny bridge that'll fall off if you do an attack on it. And, oh, by the way, there's 3 harpies that are going to try to attack your pawns that sometimes fall off the bridge anyway because they're stupid. And to the extent that they don't fall off the bridge, the harpies will just pick them up and throw them off. So, hey, fuck you. That's it.
and breathes of its own accord, and every time you step outside your front door, you're at the mercy of the overlapping systems that give its creatures life and make its rivers flow. I should mention here that Dragon's Dogma 2's rivers can literally eat you. It means that every journey is an anecdote delivery machine. You can't go from A to B without some kind of wild and wonderful event leaping out at you.
I do think that the events in the game, and this is what I was talking about, like mob variety, the events do become formulaic because every event is involving the same half a dozen things that can occur. And that's what I hope that whenever they add DLC or an update or something like that to the game, they can add a little bit more variety to it. And it was crazy for me because like this is a spoiler, right? But like at the end of the game, whenever you have like the new game plus end of the world thing, they added like 4 or 5 new types of mobs. And it was like, what the fuck? This is insane. And so it's not like they didn't even have them. Like they added like multiple new bosses in the game. It was nuts.
I recall my time in Skyrim in exactly the same way. Permanent images of being chased by frost trolls and stumbling across giants herding mammoths, none of which were part of any actual quest. Many of us remember Bethesda's shtick of saying, see that mountain? You can go there. But it wasn't actually the mountain that was important, it was the journey there. The many unscripted, organic moments that happened on your particular journey are what makes Skyrim special, as they made it your experience, not everybody else's. Dragon's Dogma 2 is an entire game cut from this same cloth. This kind of approach comes with its own drawbacks though. Creating a land this big, where the fun is often whatever happens to you rather than pre-scripted events, means there has to be a dozen systems constantly ticking behind the scenes to keep the world alive. More moving parts means more jank, and if there's anything a Skyrim fan knows well, it's jank.
Well, there's good jank and bad jank. Like, there's good bugs in games and crazy shit that happens, and bad stuff. Like, in general, I think Dragon's Dogma 2, you have to go into the game without the... Like, if you try to beat the game, you're probably not going to have fun. But if you try to play the game, you will. You try to have an experience. And I think that Dragon's Dogma 2, like, one thing that it definitely teaches a lot of people, and or at least it taught me with the first game, especially, like, playing it off stream, is stop trying to finish the game. Just enjoy the game and play the game. Stop trying to like metagame it. Stop trying to like go through it really fast. Oh, I'm going to clear the thing as fast as I can. Just chill the fuck out and play the game. That's it. Here's the simulator? Yeah.
Dragon's Dogma 2 is exactly the same. Its NPCs repeat ever-looping dialogue. Your companions are over-eager and constantly get in trouble.
They sure do. Naturally.
Characters stare dead-eyed into the wrong direction for entire conversations. Combat feels messy and imprecise. It's a list of things that would traditionally see a game written off. But rather than diminishing its quality, these rough edges feel oddly comforting because they lend the game personality. A personality reminiscent of Skyrim. There's something endearing about all this distinctly video gamey artifice and how it finds a way to sit in harmony alongside a world that so often feels truly alive. Perhaps that feeling is rooted in nostalgia. We're in a golden age of RPGs, but few games try to capture the very specific magic of Skyrim. We've been waiting 13 years for something that comes close, and it could be that we're waiting forever if we pin our hopes on Bethesda. In the years since Skyrim's launch, the studio's games have
That's probably fucking true.
increasingly been inspired by the survival genre rather than advancements in the RPG space. Fallout 4's crafting and building focus was a clear response to Minecraft's colossal success, while Fallout 76 attempted to ride the wave of Steam's survival game boom. More recently, Starfield's procedurally generated galaxy is inescapably in No Man's Sky's orbit. It stands to reason then that the Elder Scrolls 6 could push further in this direction, potentially at the expense of what made us fall in love with Oblivion and Skyrim. Dragon's Dogma 2 though, with its map absent of icon clutter and reliance on curiosity, discovery and emergent gameplay, feels akin to a Bethesda game that took inspiration from Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring. These are touchstones that are hard not to get excited about. I appreciate Bethesda is what it is precisely because it doesn't make RPGs like anyone else, but I'd like to see it focus on its open worlds rather than its survival elements. Thankfully, that's what I'm getting from Dragon's Dogma 2.
Welcome, Arisen. We pawns have long awaited your arrival.
Capcom's latest is different from Skyrim in many ways. Its lore is a pamphlet in comparison. Its quest design is only half as good, and you definitely can't play as a stealth archer.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of things you can't do in the game, and I think that Dragon's Dogma 2 has a lot of drawbacks. Like, again, like, whenever I say I think the game is a 9.5, you have to look at it from, like, my value system for games, which is, like, the number 1 is combat, number 2 is also combat, number 3 is combat, and then number 4 and 5 don't really matter, and then maybe number 6 is systems. That's all I care about. So, to me, I like the combat a lot, and the only thing that I would want to see is more bosses and things to fight.
Much more challenging than
performance. Well, performance, like, so if you're talking about like performance, microtransactions, that's stuff that's like outside of the game, in my opinion, where like that's something that everybody is going to experience differently. Like, I will experience performance issues in a way that you won't experience them, and vice versa. So I don't really talk about that a whole lot. Like, obviously, a game with performance issues is bad. There's nothing else to say about it besides that. But whenever you get past that and you talk about like the actual game itself, that's what I care about.
Scrolls game too, with long and often arduous journeys that must be sufficiently planned for. Messing up can mean reverting to an hours-old save. And so Dragon's Dogma 2 is not a spiritual sequel to Skyrim in the way that Obsidian's Avowed is positioned to be. But Skyrim's true magic was never what it was, but how it made you feel. And for the first time in 13 years, I finally had that same feeling again. The world of Dragon's Dogma 2 has the spirit of Skyrim flowing through it. It feels like a home away from home. Although only if you think home should be full of 20 feet tall monsters that surprise attack you in the middle of the night.
Fuck these things. Fucking hate them.
For more on Dragon's Dogma 2, check out our review, as well as our video detailing how long it took us to complete it. And for everything else, stick with IGN.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game, like, I really have thought about, like, I want to maybe take a day or so and then make an actual full-length video about Dragon's Dogma 2 off stream and talk about some of the positives and negatives the game has. But I think that a game that allows and creates for all these like really cool unexpected events to happen, this is what makes a game like Skyrim or any of these games. It's what makes them memorable. Like, for example, like riding the Griffin, you'll remember that. That's what really matters, is like creating experiences. And I think the game works really well that way. The microtransactions, yeah, but like I don't really care about the like, really, like, it's obviously stupid. They don't know what Capcom is dumb. It's bad. They shouldn't exist. But like, realistically, the microtransactions don't affect my gameplay. They don't change the game in a way that matters. So how much am I really going to be thinking about that? Do you like it more than Elden Ring? No, I think Elden Ring is a lot better. I don't even think it's close. Elden Ring, in my opinion, is like one of the greatest games of all time. Dragon's Dogma 2 is a great game. But Elden Ring is the game.